Hello, welcome to Screen Talk with yours truly, Nomfanelo. So, with this video, I'm joined by a special guest. She has appeared multiple times on my podcast, Rediscovered Movies. She is a writer, and please welcome Juliana Torquato.
Hi everyone.
Hey, Juliana, it's nice having you here on my channel.
Yes, it's always a great honor to be here in your videos and your podcast everywhere.
Oh, thank you. So, with this video, we'll be discussing The Secret Agent, which is a 2025 Brazilian neo noir historical political thriller film. And I'm going to apologize in advance if I mispronounce any of the names. So, it is written and directed by Clever Mendoza Filho, who has directed films such as Neighboring Sounds of Bacurau, Pictures of Ghost, and the film stars Wagner Moura, Tanya Maria, and Udo Kier. Just to warn you, we are going to be spoiling the movie. So, Julianne, so first, before we dive into the movie itself, so I want to learn from you, like, how did you first learn about this movie? Like, have you known it for quite some time, or was it recent that you knew about it?
I've seen the announcements, the marketing of this movie. I've seen some reviews. I've watched some reviews, especially here in Brazil. This movie is talked a lot because Wagner Moura is a big name here. I Me and everyone else love him. He was a big name in soap operas and a movie star. So every time he makes a movie, it's a big buzz. Everybody talks about it. So when it came out, there was a lot of talk, and there was some reviews about it. But I hadn't actually watched it until now. But I had heard the comments ago's and what was it talking about the movie? What was it about? The reception of it. It's usually when it comes to him and talking politics, it tends to be polemic here in Brazil. But I got in touch with the reviews and the comments, but not in the mood, in touch with the movie up to now.
Oh, okay, that's cool. So, for me, like I first learned about this movie when it premiered at the Cannes Film Festival back in May. I believe it won the most awards there, which included Best Actor for Wagner Moura,
Hmm.
Best Director, Fee Pressy Prize, and the Prix de Cinéma Art et Essai, if I'm hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. And it was also nominated for the Palme d'Or. So learning seeing that I'm like, oh, like I gotta check out this movie. Then the first image I saw was of Wagner Moore, like from the opening sequence with the blue shirt at the gas station,
So
and then I saw the teaser trailer, and I was like immediately hooked by this. I'm like, oh, I have to see this movie. And yeah, like I have a lot of thoughts in it. So I want to first know, like, what are your overall thoughts on this movie?
I like it that it seems to focus more in the immersion of the time
Mm-hmm.
and less on the story itself, the peculiarities of the story, but it seems to focus more sucking you in on how it felt to be like in the 70s here. The feeling, the whole, okay, always looking over your shoulder and all of that. It's, it seems like it was a little bit like on the lines of I'm Still Here. That was
Mm-hmm.
also a movie that was on the same period of time, but it gave me that feeling.
Okay. So, for me, I would say, because so first off, I want to shout out to Bytown Cinema in Ottawa. Was fortunate to see it at that theater. It's an independent theater in Ottawa, and yeah, had a great experience at watching it there for the first time. And I would say I loved the movie during my first watch. I would say, yeah, like it was a bit much at times because so much was happening. I had a similar experience when I saw Oppenheimer for the first time a few years ago in IMAX. But I would say for the most part, I really like appreciated the risk that it took from a narrative perspective, because honestly, there was some certain stuff that happened that I did not expect at all in a good way. But yeah, like I would say it made me just like appreciate the film more as I learned more about the movie itself. I would say that there were elements of this movie in a way kind of reminded me of like Memory Place, since the movie deals with memories, and I believe the director has mentioned it in several interviews from what I've read. And I would say, like, when it went to, I believe it was 2022, like the modern period, that kind of caught me a bit off guard. But then after learning more about like the context behind them, like I appreciated that more. So I would say it's one of my favorite movies that came out this year, and I'm just fortunate that it's being recognized at the moment.
Yes, it's always, at least I believe it's always good for foreigner movies to be recognized in a scenario that's always so centered in certain specific kind of movies. And I really like it, especially that it's so, it feels so natural for the time, and at certain point you feel like you are there.
Mm-hmm.
You feel like you're living it. So
Mm-hmm.
I really like that aspect that they managed to set you in a manner that, yeah, you're living that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, we could talk about like the elements that of the movie that stood out. So, for me, like I want to talk about the opening sequence. So, I want to share my screen first. So, give me a second. So, I found it was interesting that the movie started with these series of images. I believe from uh, I believe it's called Brazilian telenovelas, or soap operas, some would call it. In the script here, they show a series of images from
Mhm.
various telenovelas from the 70s at the time. So I found that was quite interesting. Like, I think for me, like, it shows, I guess, to represent the feeling of the time period, essentially. So, do you have any thoughts on this?
I I remember. I think there were more pictures. There was like, because I remember
Yeah.
seeing various celebrities of the time, celebrities
Mm-hmm.
that were not only specific from the time, but people that we still are still remembered today. Also, like celebrities of all sorts, especially because, let's be honest, it's a very political movie, and knowing the stories, it picks a side in in the politics of it. And some of the images that are shown are pictures of people that fought for the same ideals that are being represented in the story. Are celebrities that had been on the same side, that had the same presentation as the character of Marcelo during the story. So some of them were very iconic for it. So all the images that were shown were not only celebrities that were famous at the time, but still linger, like Shakira. I remember seeing very clear, but there were also, if I'm not mistaken, a picture of Caetano Veloso with Maria Bethânia. There were also, but that, if I remember correctly, passed through similar situations as Marcel passed during the movie. So there was this sort of contextualization of the whole story that was coming forward only through pictures of real people that lived during that time.
Hmm. Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. And then then I believe like not long after the images, we see Marcelo enter the gas station with the yellow beetle, and just seeing that Volkswagen Beetle is quite iconic because it has been featured in several movies. I know like Footloose, it's been shown in that, Bumblebee, but also too in The Shining. And from what I read, apparently the director said that with the whole credits sequence, that apparently is a nod to The Shining, which I find is quite fascinating.
Yeah, it was. I I thought it was very interesting that there was a yellow beetle out of nowhere. I was like, "Oh, interesting. Considering that the not was shiny, I would forgive that they didn't put a blue beetle because it would cause chaos at the cinema. I don't know if it happens in other cultures, but here we have some sort of a joke that every time you see a blue beetle, you have to slap someone. It would have been interesting to see that at the theaters. Every time his car shows up, ah, but okay, it's The Shining. I forgive.
Yeah, yeah, because it's been a while since I've seen that movie, The Shining. Because I believe, like, for that credit sequence, it has like a very eerie feeling to it, like with the music. Essentially, I think that is meant to like foreshadow the main character's arc essentially into he delves into madness essentially, if I remember correctly from that movie. So just thinking about that, like I don't know, kind of makes me like reevaluate the credit sequence in this movie. So maybe also too with the way it's shot, it's supposed to maybe like kind of foreshadow Marcelo's arc in a way. Plus also too you have the song If You Leave Me Now by Chicago in the background, because that song is essentially about begging someone to stay in the relationship essentially. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I like it, the mystery of it,
Hmm.
because you don't really know what's going on.
Yeah.
Because, well, of course, I hope there are Brazilians watching, but we have an idea of what could be happening because it's hammered in our heads
Hmm.
during school years. But at some point, you don't really know why Marcelo, why that specific person, but in the back of our heads, we have an idea of why it could be, or it could be for nothing. Is it something? Is it nothing? Is it just random persecution? What is happening? And there's a corpse there, and just pretend
Yeah.
to look at it.
Yeah.
Just fake it. Pretend it matters.
Yeah, yeah, that whole like moment at the gas station was quite intense. In ways, it kind of reminds me of a western because we see like shots of the landscape, and you have the corrupt police arriving at the scene because there's a shot at one point of one of the officers with a blood stain on their
Hmm.
shirt. So yeah, like you felt like, oh, like you don't know what's going to happen, because initially when they arrive you think, oh, they're here for the corpse, but no, it turns out they're here for Marcelo because I believe they found that his car was suspicious or something like that. So I found like that was quite interesting twist with that moment.
Yeah, it reminded me a bit of sort of a slasher when
Mm.
you're in the middle of the road going to some cabin in the woods and some suspicious person just pops out in your window and just okay, who are you? What do you want? Here in the middle of nowhere, it gave me
Hmm.
that eerie feeling like, okay, maybe this is not the road I want to be going, but I'm going anyways. It gave me this sense of slasher.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I would say like that whole sequence of the opening, I would say it's one of like the highlights of the movie for sure.
Yes.
hmm And I believe like too during the credits, like we see these images of I believe this figure, it's called the La Ursa, which is this apparently a bear-like mythical creature. I find that was quite fascinating when Marcelo is on the road and sees a person in that costume, and I think there's like a band alongside this person, if you
Mm-hmm.
remember. Because I do
Yes.
have a picture of it from the script. I don't think it's the exact picture from the movie. When you saw that, was like, did it spell out any significance for you?
It seemed to me, I don't know, it just gave me a bad vibe.
Oh.
It wasn't, I don't know how to explain it, but it just gave me a bad vibe. I mean, it's Carnival.
Yeah.
Everybody's in disguise and having fun and playing pranks and all of that. But it just, it didn't sit well with me for some reason. I don't know if it was just something that made me uncomfortable. Probably, and I eventually I figured that it was supposed to be uncomfortable because later it shows up again in the nightmare sequence, and I was like, okay, I wasn't that far off, but it created a sensation of okay, especially when he was still approaching before he saw the coming to the another car. I was like, okay, that's an attack.
hmm
That's coming. But then I saw it was just a joke, and I was like, okay. Well, it reminded me a bit. Maybe it's my childhood traumas, but it reminded me of Batch Ballers. Because there's very typical of Carnival, but I never really liked it.
hmm
I was always very afraid of it because they really come at you. But if you can see it,
Yeah, I could see. Yeah.
they are very intense and they just come at you like they have hitting
hmm
stuff. And it's it can be scary, it can be fun, and sometimes it can be a bit violent.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why it gave me such an eerie feeling, and eventually it showed that it was supposed to be like that.
Yeah, yeah. Because like when I first saw it myself, it kind of reminded me of the Boogeyman, of this, because it was quite scary. Also, to like the way like that it was shot. I'm like, oh, like like it kind of made me a bit frightened. But I think at the same time too, probably because of its significance in relation to Carnival, is supposed to how can I say illustrate maybe like a sense of maybe happiness. I don't know if that's the right word, but
Yeah, this is one of the things that it, at least with my experience, people enjoy doing, but not everybody enjoys sharing it.
hmm
So the ones in the costume enjoy being the costume, but everybody else around just stay away, please. It's kind of that vibe.
Yeah, yeah, I get it. I get it. So also too, we could stick with Carnival. So I really enjoyed that sequence when we see at night Marcelo having fun as Carnival celebrations happen. So I'm not familiar with Carnival myself. So do you want to explain just like what it is and what the significance of it is?
Well, there are several meanings,
Mm-hmm.
but let's stick with the most practical one because most of the meanings involves religious traditions and depends on the religion and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
But the most social meaning is a few days actually. If I'm not mistaken, it's 5 days of celebration to enjoy mostly the African descendancy of Brazilian culture. That's where they stick most of it with. That's why here, at least, I live in Rio de Janeiro.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why here we have the carnival parades that usually focus more on African descendancy and everything that's brought on, or special, or some chosen celebrity that they want to celebrate. So it's more of a celebration of the people, of the culture of
Mm-hmm.
that specific region. That's why there are several different parties, different types of parties to celebrate Carnival. For example, these movies in Recife, the
Mm-hmm.
carnivals in Recife are different. The carnival parties in Recife are different from the ones in Rio. They are different from the ones in São Paulo because they celebrate the local culture. So they
Mm-hmm.
express different things, but it's more of a celebration of the culture, both of the country and regional. And of course, there are the religious undertones of each religion and so on.
Okay, cool. So with Carnival, like, is it celebrated in one day or is it like multiple days?
Multiple days, it's usually 5 days. Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday.
Oh,
It
okay.
starts on a Wednesday and it goes into Sunday,
Oh,
to Monday, sorry.
oh, okay. Okay, that's cool. And you get days off for that or no?
Depends on where you work.
Okay.
Depending on where you work, no, if you work on not needed functions like hospitals or pharmacies and all of that, you get the week off. I work in an airport, so yeah, more
Okay.
work.
All
At
right.
most 2 days, if I'm lucky.
Okay.
But normally, in most sectors like schools, you get carnival. And it's a very important celebration, so much so that people say that the year only starts after Carnival. It's
Hmm.
like the whole country stops waiting for that moment.
Okay, that's cool. So also like we got to talk about the apartment that Marcelo stays at. So I believe I forgot the old lady's name in the movie. I think it's Donna
Sebastiana,
Sebastiana.
Sebastiana.
What a character she is. She was a delight to watch there. I saw like a tweet. Someone tweeted that if Marcelo is James Bond, Donna Sebastiana is M, which I found that was hilarious. But yeah, she was quite a delight to watch, along with the other people that live in the building. During those scenes, I got a sense of community because essentially everyone there has a past, essentially that they're trying to run away from. Either it's from either something or someone or a combo of the both, and there's also to a moment when we see the cat Liza and Elis, kind of like a two in one cat, which I found that was quite fascinating when they showed that shot there. But also too, with that cat, kind of represents the people in the building in terms of having two, or you could say multiple identities. So I found that was quite cool with those whole bits there.
Yes, yes, I like it because it, in retrospect, it's a good representation of what we have there. It's basically him telling surface. These people are two-faced.
Mm-hmm.
They have two identities, all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Like this cat. And not necessarily in a bad way. It's just they live they have two faces, but so does the cat.
Yeah.
It's the way they live.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I found like it was quite fascinating that with Marcelo, like I wrote in my notes that he has like sexual chemistry with Claudia, who's a dentist.
I I would say, as a fun girl, it's Wagner Moura. He has sexual chemistry with anyone you put him on screen with.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it was very well designed because his story shows us that he lost exactly his wife,
Mm-hmm.
and now he's so. It seems that he would, at least it gives us the hope that he will try to rebuild that connection with Claudia
Mm-hmm.
because he lost it and now he's trying again.
Mm-hmm.
Did it work? I don't know. I just know that eventually it ends up the way it did because there's a period of time there that we eventually don't see. But I don't think it had time for that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of connections, so we got to talk about Fernando. Like their whole relationship, that was quite sweet to watch as he reunites with his son after arriving to Recife. And I love like the moment when they are inside the car at night.
Hmm.
That was quite beautiful to see, which is, I believe, is the only shot outside of the opening where we see him inside the Beetle, which I find is quite fascinating. But yeah, I just really enjoyed their relationship, and is quite fascinating that with Fernando, he really wanted to see Jaws because I that was probably quite the phenomenon at the time it came out, and we'll get to the whole shark bit in a bit, but yeah, like how it turned out, like towards the end when Fernando, as an adult, mentions that he finally saw Jaws and was not afraid anymore. I found that was quite interesting there. So you want to like comment on like their relationship, your thoughts on that?
I think it was an interesting way to approach. Okay, let's get into school for Brazilians in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
It was a really interesting way to approach how the offspring of people that lived
Mm-hmm.
in that era felt about their predecessors. Because I had a teacher, a history teacher nonetheless, that her grandmother lived through this period, and when she was, I think, I believe it was ninth grade, her family was going through the same process as Marcelo. They were trying to find the documents of their grandmother, of
Mm-hmm.
her grandmother, because it simply disappeared, which was very common. There was sometimes people that simply would vanish. So I think Fernando reflects a lot the feeling that people that were young have when they grow up. Like, I don't know this person
Mm-hmm.
because they had to disappear from my life, from my safety.
Yeah.
So I didn't grow up with them. I don't know who they are. I I heard stories, I heard memories, but I don't have memories. I have
Mm-hmm.
stories.
Yeah.
It's quite sad, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, especially when it came to that final sequence with Fernando and I forgot the researcher's name, but that was quite
Claudia,
heartbreaking. Yeah, it was quite heartbreaking to see all that unfold.
yes, I think it was, and it's something that we cannot take back, unfortunately, but it was it was very well written, and I think it was very well written,
Yeah, I agree.
and it was very well played. It was something that I at least seen happen in front of me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I've seen some people say that with the ending is quite divisive because I probably for some people feel like it's not a resolved ending, if that makes sense. But for me, like just reflecting on it, and plus also to what the director has said about the movie, like the ending makes sense, I would say.
The ending, I thought the ending was interesting because, as I said, I think it was more about the immersion,
Mm-hmm.
not about the particular story, about how you would feel in that situation, in
Mm-hmm.
that period of time. So when it go back to the future, but it really just leads you to reflect what would be the consequences of that. What would you do if you were Fernando? Would you write all of that, or would you just stick with the stories that you do?
Yeah.
Is it better to know the truth that was told, the voices, hear what your father said, the whole version, his side of the story,
Mm-hmm.
or do you prefer to keep the memories? What I don't think he needed a set in stone conclusion. It just opened for your interpretation, for
Mm-hmm.
you to think about it, of what you would do in this position.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and who knows? Maybe at some point he might like revisit those audio files by just saying he's just not ready for it, or maybe
Yeah,
just chooses not to open those doors.
yes, it's a very complicated decision too.
Yeah,
It's a it's a difficult thing to relive something that caused you so much pain because you can see that it caused him a lot of hurt. So to relive all of that, even if it is from a different perspective, it may hurt a lot.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I do want to note that with the final sequence, it was quite sad to learn that in the movie that the blood bank used to be a cinema, which is quite sad though, because given like with the current state of the theatrical movie business, with theaters closing or struggling to open, not just before the pandemic but like post pandemic, like that's quite heartbreaking to see.
Yes, and it's a future that we may not want to see, but it's possible that it will happen more and more because
Yeah.
it's getting difficult for cinemas to stay open. It's a cycle. People go less, at least as I see, people go less to the cinemas, and then things get more expensive, and then people stop going, and then cinemas struggle, and on and on and on it goes.
Mm-hmm.
So there may be more cinemas turned into blood banks.
Yeah. Yeah, or anything else that replaces it, so
Yeah.
it's
So
sad. So we could like segue. We need to talk about the sharks. There's a lot of sharks in this movie.
my terror, my biggest fear.
Yeah. So because from what I read, apparently with the shark attacks were quite the big thing in Brazil. So do you have any like thoughts on that?
Well, hearing news
Uh,
less often,
mm-hmm.
but it still happens every now and
Okay.
then. Very every now and then. It's pretty rare.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember I did go to Recife once. I did visit Recife, and there was a part of the beach that had a huge sign saying that it was a really old sign, but it stayed there as a touristic attraction, saying that there used to be a slaughterhouse nearby, and they used to throw the cow's blood in the ocean that would attract the sharks.
Wow.
And so there were a high probability of shark attacks, so the swimmers should be careful. And I just looked down, there were a bunch of surfers nearby. I was like, are you insane? I know that song is 30 years old, but if there is a possibility of a shark coming nearby, I'm going across the street. I'm not getting anywhere, but I was forced to take a picture with the sign. But there is so, especially over there in Pernambuco, I think there are more cases. I'm not saying that as a fact. I think that are, but it's not a fact. But here in Rio, it's very uncommon. Very
Okay.
uncommon. It happens very rarely, but
Okay.
happens. But back at this time, I think this sign that I saw in Recife was from this period of time where there was still slaughterhouses throwing blood in the ocean and would attract the sharks. That's why
Mm-hmm.
there were more frequent shark attacks.
Wow.
But nowadays, not so much.
Okay. Okay. That's cool. I mean, for me though, like I'm in Ottawa myself, so obviously I don't see sharks myself, so luckily I don't have that problem. But yeah, that was quite cool though. Like with I didn't know like sharks was going to be one of the prominent aspects of this movie, not just in terms of like the shark attacks, but also too with the movie Jaws, as we've previously mentioned. So, and I believe the director said that he's a fan of the movie and saw it when he was a kid at the time. So,
Yes, I, I remember I read that, and it's in the movie too. The hairy leg myth.
yeah. Yeah.
It all started with a shark attack, but it kind of fits because it creates this fear of the unknown. Because until a shark appears in Jaws, you're just afraid of a fin passing in the water.
Hmm.
Mostly because it was difficult to film a shark back in the time. But there was a lot of you don't know who's coming, when it's coming, from where it's coming, and after who it's coming.
Hmm.
So that was the whole who is coming, the hairy lag. After who is coming, it could be anyone at any time,
Hmm.
anywhere. It's a hairy lag. It's a myth. It's a monster. It's the boogeyman. It's coming. So it was
Hmm.
meant to create this fear of being contradictory. So much so that there was one scene that you see people in the park, and one of the people that are attacked are a gay couple, which
Hmm.
was completely unacceptable.
Yeah.
So the hairy leg is shown to be going after people that are unaccepted by the, the status quo as a whole.
Hmm.
And then
Absolutely.
the other starts with a shark. Always the sharks.
Yeah. So I found a tweet here that the director he
What do you mean?
commented on the hairy leg here. So he says here that quote, for most of my life, for all my life, the hairy leg was a local urban legend. Recife had a number of urban legends. The hairy leg was actually created by a local journalist who was so fed up with not being able to write about what happened last night in terms of violence because, of course, the police or the military inflicted the terror on the gay population, people having sex in parks, smoking pot, and so he developed a hairy leg as a code. So he would write, the hairy leg struck again last night, and everybody knew that something bad related to the police force was involved. And then he added that in the film, which is playing at Cannes at the time, the hairy leg hops and kicks again. So I
Yes,
found that was interesting.
it was common.
Yeah.
The myths created to hide the police brutality.
Absolutely. And also too, like the way like it was shot, that was quite fascinating. They're showing from the perspective of the leg.
Yes. And they cut between the woman that was rocking and the leg hopping and eventually kicking. I
Mm-hmm.
liked that because there was some points I didn't know if it was the hairy leg or the woman's leg that we were watching until we actually saw the cut of, oh, okay, it's the leg.
Yeah,
That was fun.
yeah. And also too, I want to talk about. So there's a specific shot that apparently the director likes to use in his work, and is also featured here too, which is a split diopter. So essentially, like that was one of the notable camera shots that was used in a lot of movies from the 70s to the 90s. You see in a lot of thrillers, like Brian De Palma's films, for example, are notable for using this shot. So in this movie, it was used when Armando was at the ID office, and the hitman was shouting out his name. It was also in the trailer as well too, and I do have a photo of the set shot. But I find that was quite the cool shot there, and glad like was able to see those type of shots used again, even though like it's still being used today, but I feel like it's less frequent that we see this type of shot on screen. He shared the shot here of the split diopters used in his films Aquarius, Baccarat, and The Secret Agent. So,
Hmm.
um, any thoughts on
I
this?
think it's really good. It should be used
Mm-hmm.
more often because it gives us the sensation that we are the character.
Mm-hmm.
It brings us not just to the feeling that we are watching that, but we are Marcelo, we are Armando, and we are the ones being called out. We we are not just watching him being called out. We are the ones that are being called out. So that gives us, I think that any shot, any perspective, any story that gives us the idea, the sensation that we are the character, that we are there, not just watching. Even if it's the film techniques that makes us feel that we are in the movie, but we are watching as a third person. I think
Mm-hmm.
that when we are feeling that we are the character, the main character of the story, it gives more the sensation of okay, you lose your breath, you hold it, especially on scenes like that with Marcelo, that he's in a tense moment when somebody being when being cornered by somebody that is a threat to him.
Mm-hmm.
So you feel like you're cornered and being threatened, and that is a good way to show, not just show something, but make us feel. I think the movies art is all about that. Make us feel. So if you have an idea when creating an art, you have to make us feel what we're feeling when creating it. And that was a great way of making us feel what he wanted us to feel for Armando.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I do want to note that if you're interested in learning about the split diopter shot, there is a video by Studio Binder, which they do a lot of like educational videos in relation to film and TV. They did done a video on the split diopter. I recommend you guys check that out if you want to learn more
Hmm.
about that shot specifically. But yeah, so should we talk about Ghirotti, who is the, I would say, the antagonist of the movie?
Okay, go ahead. Give me your thoughts. I'll add on it.
Sure. So for me, with Girardi, for me, like he comes across as a man of influence. I don't know what like the proper term would be, but he doesn't work for the regime, but he certainly has connections, I would say, within the regime. So essentially that character is an asshole and also too is racist as well too, where he
Yeah.
essentially dismisses everyone simply just for the sake of because we saw like the flashback when Armando was working as a professor, and essentially Girardi like dismisses everyone's research, telling people they should work in the industry and not waste money on funds, essentially. And then we see also too that that restaurant sequence. I mean, what a scene that one, where he disrespects not just Armando but also to his wife Fatima. And yeah, glad that Fatma like stand up for herself, but also to Armando, he stood up for his wife, and that led to that whole confrontation there. But yeah, Girardi and also to his son, they're assholes.
Oh, he he reminds me. I don't think he works for the government. I mean, he's won't mention names, but he worked in. There were some big companies back in the day. They did what they had to do to survive. So I think the idea of him saying that he works for the industry,
Hmm.
that and wanting everyone to work for the industry was a way for him to pull everyone into the ideas that he believed and that he accepted and the industry accepted to survive. Some to
Hmm.
survive, and him apparently because he actually believed it.
Hmm.
But I think that the whole idea of him going to that institute was to shut it down in the first place.
Hmm.
Because in that meeting, he mentions that researches that are being done in other countries and in EU, it shows that he's not only a racist, but he's also a xenophobe. He
Hmm.
doesn't believe that the things that are important for that region should be valued by the government. Only the big states should be there, should have government funding.
Yeah.
So he wants to shut down because well it's a local project and the local this locality doesn't matter.
Hmm.
It's not important enough. And there's the racism and the whole assholeness of the two characters.
Hmm.
But it shows a lot of the people, some of the people that believed in those ideas. Some of them, not all of them. But there were those that actually they just embraced those ideas to justify their assholeness.
Hmm.
It was just a way of saying, well, I'm an asshole because I believe that.
Yeah.
No, you're just an asshole.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And it's just a shame that like after the whole confrontation at the restaurant, I'm not sure in terms of like the time frame, but with Girardi essentially orders the hitman to go after Armando. I'm assuming because of that moment, unless if there's another reason. But yeah, he's an asshole. So I don't know.
Pretty much.
Hmm.
And I'm not really sure. I don't know. I just got that feeling that Gerardi had something to do with Fatma's death.
Oh, I thought that too. I thought that too. Yeah.
There was a feeling there. There's something implicit.
Yeah. Because I believe Armando told his son that his mom was sick was why she died. But then I thought, was she really sick? Because I think they showed a shot of like a car crash, if I'm not mistaken.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think it was not accidental, her death, I would say.
Yeah, and it would explain why Ghirotti wanted him dead.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if he knows that he or at least ordered his wife to be killed,
Yeah.
well, he would want him off the board too. It would make sense, the story. I have this feeling.
And also too, he wants to send a message to his detractors to say like, hey, don't mess with me or else, you know.
Yeah, look, I think that that is a message that I don't feel like needs to be sent because when he started talking about him, when
Mm-hmm.
Armando started talking about Jordan, he already knew
Yeah.
that he wasn't a good fellow. He was a bad person that he had to deal with, and he knew back then that he was a bad person that he needed to deal with
Mm-hmm.
because it was his job.
Yeah.
He wasn't interested in dealing with him. He wasn't interested in making a deal. He just had to put up with him because it was part of the job.
Mm-hmm.
So back when he was a professor, he already knew people already knew he wasn't a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there was it would be a good motivator for him to just not that he wouldn't have done it before. I think that was an idea that the conversation with the hired killers shows he's really comfortable and he seems to know them well. So he has done that before.
Yeah.
He has hired them before. So it's a common thing for him to hire people to kill other people. It's not
Yeah.
unheard of.
Yeah.
He did
Absolutely.
kill, but
Yeah. Absolutely. So that could like segue into the hitman that was hired by the two hitman. I believe his character's name is I think is Vilmar, his name. The guy that he apparently works at looks like some sort of factory or warehouse, which I'm kind of surprised for hitman to be working at a factory, because I feel like that's not typically seen in film and TV. But I guess to show that even hitmen can work the everyday type of job. So
yes, he can be at your nearest coffee shop.
yeah.
It it's interesting because in early scenes it shows them doing the work at least of disposing the body.
Hmm.
So you would assume that they did the work. But I guess they don't do the work, they just hire someone else to do it and
Yeah.
then just
Yeah.
get rid of the evidence. It's hiring the hire killers.
Hmm.
And I think it was something interesting because it it shows that, at least to me, it showed me that they are accustomed to do it and they do it well by hiring someone local, someone
Hmm.
that knows the places, that knows the people, that knows how to move around. But then again, they wouldn't learn. So they may not be the ones to do it, but they know how to do it.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting way. Normally, we are accustomed to seeing mercenaries just blazing guns and shooting people.
Hmm.
These ones, they actually use their head to do the job.
Yeah. Absolutely. And like that whole like sequence at the ID office, like when the shootout happens, I'm like that was quite intense there, like when they showed like the the squibs essentially from
Mhm.
when they got shot with the police officers, and then that leads to that whole chase sequence. Which I'll be honest, I thought with Vilmar, I thought he was going to get killed off because he got injured when he got shot in the leg, but nope. It turns out that it was the other hitman, Bobby, I believe that's his name. He got killed
Mhm.
off.
I thought it would last longer.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the whole Yuma Bob would last longer. They would have longer chase scenes,
Mm-hmm.
but Yuma just killed him cold blood. But I thought it would last longer. He would run more, and then honestly, don't know who would win
Mm-hmm.
because it was built up that Bob was a good at killing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Don't know, but it was also built up that Yuma was good at killing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so I was expecting something of a western, like Clint Eastwood, just who's the quickest.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, I like it. I like it.
Yeah.
The,
Yeah.
and I think it goes back to what I was saying. It's not just the whole mercenary killers thing. It's
Mm-hmm.
just who's the smartest. Because we actually led Bob into a trap. That's
Mm-hmm.
what got him killed. He wasn't just shooting at will. It was a trap. So, okay, he's not just a hired gun. He's actually smart too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Which shows that yeah, like you shouldn't judge people based off their appearances because you just never know.
And that's exactly what Bob did.
Yeah.
Yeah, he worked at this terrible job. And, okay, but doesn't mean that he's stupid.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, absolutely. So also too, I really enjoyed Udo Kier as Hans, even though it was a small role. So he played the German tailor because he had that one scene and then briefly appeared in the Carnival sequence. But yeah, first off, yeah, it's just unfortunate that the actor passed away. But also too, like, yeah, he gave a great performance, I would say, during his monologue in that scene. So I found, yeah, that was great to watch with that one.
Yes, and I thought that it was really intense.
Mm-hmm.
That especially because of the assumptions that the deputy, I'm not sure if that's the title that was given to Euclides, but what he assumed he was, just because he
Mm-hmm.
was German.
Yeah.
He automatically assumed that we are on the same side,
Mm-hmm.
when in fact he, Hans was oppressed by the ideologies that Euclides defends. And I had a small hint, I don't know if it was just me, that Marcel slash Armando speaks German
Hmm.
because when Hans tells everybody to go away, nobody speaks that in Portuguese,
Mm-hmm.
but he leaves. He's the first one to just leave.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, I do understand him because I have the feeling that he actually was understanding the whole monologue in German.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one more idea that okay, we are talking politics here and we have the assumption of something and what actually is and we have two different sides
Yeah.
communicating the same or not communicating the same way because one was saying one thing, other one was saying something completely different and nobody understood each other in the end. We just leave the room.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. Also, too, should we talk about Elsa?
Oh, Maria, Maria.
I thought she was fun to watch during that scene at the cinema. I found it was interesting. She told Marcelo that she's going to do things the Brazilian way to protect him. I wasn't sure what that meant exactly, but I guess that's left up to interpretation. But
It's a very common slang we have. We are going to do it the Brazilian way. We're just going to squish our way through the loopholes. We're
mm-hmm,
going to find a loophole here, a loophole there, and maybe make things quicker and easier than they should be.
mm-hmm,
So that's why when her friend, I forgot his name, he says that they can get the passport in 10 days, she says in 4,
mm-hmm,
because she's going to find loopholes and easier ways to navigate through the bureaucracy to get the passports quicker. That
mm-hmm.
is the Brazilian way of doing things, finding easier ways, quicker ways to do things.
Mm-hmm.
Some take it as an insult, and it can be, depending
Yeah.
on what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But depending on the situation, it can be a compliment. If
Yeah.
you keep it within the lines, you're just working within the loopholes. You're working within what you can to just make things better, quicker.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And to note, because I believe like she told Armando that she's sorry for Fatma's death and said, quote, that Brazil will pay for the crimes, essentially, which brings up to our earlier point that her death, is when it's not accidental, I would say.
Yeah, and I think neither hers nor Marcelo's mother.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the reasons why I think he was looking for her documents for so long,
Mm-hmm.
because he finds his father's document,
Mm-hmm.
but he never finds his mother's. Neither does Fernando in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So how did his mother vanish? Why
Yeah.
did his mother vanish?
Mm-hmm.
Same idea with Fatima. Why does everybody? Why does he tell this story for her son, his son, that she was sick, but her father, Fatima's father, keeps questioning him
Mm-hmm.
about her, and Elsa just, okay, the country will pay for her death. Okay, it wasn't she just sick?
Mm-hmm.
So there was something with these two women that involves more than just death.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. But I do want to mention that I love how it kind of talks about the love for cinema itself as we see um what's his name, Alexandra, like he works as a projectionist as at the cinema, and it seems to be kind of like this like cultural like event where we see a lot of people attend the cinema, especially when they saw the different films like Jaws, for example. And I'm sure there are other ones that I can't remember off the top of my head, but we saw at one point there was a lady that it looked like she was like passing out or having like a moment there, which was quite fascinating to see when she was outside of the lobby, essentially. But I find like as a cinephile myself, like it's just always nice to see cinema itself being shown in movies.
Yes, I remember this experience. The most recent one was the whole Barbenheimer thing. It was a whole event.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember when I was younger, note to all the viewers, I'm a child of the 90s.
Yeah,
So
same here.
when I, so when we were younger, cinema was going to the cinema was more frequent.
Yeah.
I remember it was like all this event that happened with Barbie and Oppenheimer was more frequent. people would go to the cinemas dressed up. I went to the cinemas dressed up to watch none of the Harry Potter, and I
Mm-hmm.
would go to late sessions, like premieres at midnight. And I was a kid, and I would watch all the movies and stay in lines for hours to watch a movie. It, there were these big events. So when we watch this being portrayed, it's really nice not just to reminisce to see, wow, can we go back to this time again? Can we
Yeah.
bring this to the future?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Like those were the times for sure. So I don't know if we'll ever get those back, but who knows, you know?
Yeah, I think it's not just the cinema. It's also it all changed. Back then we had more a community, a sense of community when we went to the cinema. Nowadays, just things are more, especially post-pandemic, things are more isolated. People are more isolated. So even in the environment of cinema, we have the tendency of separating ourselves. We don't cheer together anymore. We don't laugh together anymore. It's all very me. I am watching the movie. Everybody else just stay in their seats. It's
Mm-hmm.
I feel it's more separated and everybody just. I used to make friends that I met on the line to buy tickets. So I don't think that's something that it's possible to get back, unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do want to briefly mention the yellow payphone that's used in the movie. That's adorable.
That was a thing. I spent a lot of coins on that.
Yeah.
There were a lot of, there were a lot of coins that I had to use. And I only used it briefly because as I grew older, they stopped being used as a whole. And I
Hmm.
remember that I used to make a lot of free calls because I didn't have enough coins to use, so I had to make phone calls. But they had stickers, very inappropriate stickers for public places
Hmm.
all over it with female bodies not completely dressed all over. But nowadays, I don't think we see them anymore. I think they have been all taken out. I don't see them around at all.
Okay, yeah. I think it's like that in general too with payphones. You're seeing less of that stuff. But I
Mhm.
did see like in some social media posts that I believe in Brazil, like they had the replicas of the payphones that were used in the movie. So did you ever see those in person or?
No,
Okay,
maybe some specific cinemas they do have it, but
okay.
I haven't gone to those specific cinemas.
Oh, I do like have some few articles I want to share once I share my screen here. So after I saw the movie, so I saw like someone shared this article that talks about the layers and small details from the movie. So, first off, it mentions, if you remember, when Marcelo is at the ID office during his first day, there was that whole subplot involving the mother and the employer, I guess, when they had like their deposition inside the building, which I
Mm-hmm.
believe is connected to the police station in the movie, which I find that itself is quite fascinating right there. But it mentions here, yeah, that the woman has a hearing. Apparently, yeah, she's rich and told her maid to go to the bakery. It says the employer should have taken care of the maid's child. The girl was left unattended, left the building, and was run over. The hearing changed places to avoid confrontation between the employer, the maid, and many people supporting the maid. Apparently, it happened in 2020 in Recife, where the film is set. They say, well, almost instead of a girl being ran over, a boy fell from the building after being left unattended. Like in the film, the guilty part, that is the employer, had her hearing held in the place outside the spotlight and far from manifestation. She was condemned to 8 years in prison that were later diminished to 7 years, but she is currently free, awaiting for the final decision of the justice.
That rings a bell
Mm-hmm.
because I remember this story of a boy falling from a building because he was left unattended by the employer of a maid that was set to the maid was set to do something, and the employer was supposed to take care of the boy, and the boy fell from. I remember vaguely this story. I didn't remember it was in the city. I didn't remember the part. I have to be honest, but I remember this story. I didn't know that this part of the story, this subplot was based on this event, but I do remember this event vaguely. I watched too many crime stories,
Yeah.
but I do remember this story. And
Okay.
well,
Okay.
it's one of the many.
Okay. So yeah, I found like that whole scene in the movie was quite fascinating to see there. I'll be honest, I didn't expect that to happen in the movie, but I found it was quite interesting to also to learning the backstory of this was also quite fascinating as well too. So I found it was cool.
I like it that it showed the influence of Euclides. It's one of the many
Mm-hmm.
things that shows his influence over everyone. I mean, that's not a police office. That's an ID office. There's two different things, and he just said, "No, it's going to be here." Why? Because I said so. So it shows how impactful he can be, even with the most honest and well, most good-willing people. And that story just shows that he uses his power, his influence to not so good intentions because he really changed the value of the position to avoid the person that lost a child. So he uses his power not for good things. And that is showing that this is something that he has a habit to do.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So also too, with this article mentions the reason behind the title. So says Marcelo is not a literal secret agent, not even an active member of the resistance. He starts being persecuted because a banal reason, standing up to sexism. There's only one mention of secret agent in the movie, which is Marcelo's father-in-law's cinema. Um, says a cinema on the streets, something clever loves, not yet in shopping mall complexes like it is now. A movie that's being exhibited is Les Magnifiques, also known as The Man from Acapulco, a 1973 French film starring Jean-Paul Belmondo. In this film, a writer of pulp fiction novels imagines his latest adventures as a world-renowned spy. Marcelo is neither a spy nor world renowned, but suddenly his life becomes some kind of adventure, the one most people, including me, don't want to live. I have seen some complaints online that some people felt that with the title of the movie, um, does not reflect the movie itself. I think the title itself is open to interpretation, but do you have any thoughts on the title itself?
I think the title gives more the idea that he's not a secret agent like a spy.
Mm-hmm.
but someone that is taking actions,
Mm-hmm.
aka an agent, in secret. So he's moving the things like talking to Elsa, like mo- trying to get his life together so he can live with his son. He's taking actions in secrecy because he cannot do it openly. So to me, the title tells more about that. He's a secret agent because he's someone who's taking actions in secret.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think like the closest thing to espionage, if you want to call it that, is when he has to send out the telegrams, and also to the phone calls he has either to Elsa or to the other person he communicates with in the movie.
Mhm. Yes, there's not much espionage in this movie.
Yeah. But like ish. So it briefly mentions here that many may find, I mean, as we discussed, the ending is anticlimactic. But what is truly anticlimactic is that there are many people asking for a new dictatorship because the one chronicled in the movie, quote, only arrested and killed communists. For Clever and many of us, the past is truly exciting, while the present and the revisionists who come up with it are only anticlimactic. I find that's quite interesting with this passage here.
One of the reasons why I'm holding back so many of my comments because it's it's a complicated topic. Because first, it's quite recent. The 70s
Hmm.
were not that long ago, and recently there have been movements asking for a new military regime.
Hmm.
So people are trying to change some, polish some parts of the history to say that, oh, this wasn't that bad because, well, it wasn't like that. You're just imagining things. The communists are making you think that. Okay, but what about the people that went missing? What about those who disappeared? What happened to them? They were communists. Period. The answer is always that communism. There's no development of conversations. And it was a difficult time because you didn't have freedom of speech. You
Hmm.
couldn't say the things you wanted to say within the restrictions of law. For example, Hans would never have been able to say that he's a Jew. Otherwise, he would have been sent back to Germany, and who knows what would have happened to him. One other movie that shows that quite interestingly is Olga, that is set during this period of time, and Olga was married to rebellions, Julius Prestes, if I'm not mistaken. He was a journalist that wrote a newspaper uh, opposing the regime, and when he was caught, she was sent to Germany, and she was a Jew. That was the environment. You could not say anything against the government.
Yeah.
And this is what some people have been asking to return.
Hmm.
So it's a bit difficult.
Yeah. So it kind of reminds me. So I've seen various interviews. So with the director Clever and Wagner Moura have mentioned that apparently from I believe it was either 2018 or 2019 to 2022, apparently Brazil was run by the far right, and I believe they were very vocal in terms of what was happening in Brazil at the time, and as a result, they were given a hard time because I believe Wagner Moura, he directed a movie called Marighella, which is a biopic. I don't remember the person's name in the movie, but essentially he was very outspoken against the government at the time, and his movie I believe was suppressed at the time in Brazil, and it came out I think a few years later. I think it was like around either 2021 or 2022, and I think they've mentioned that it took some time for this movie, The Secret Agent, to get going, and they had to get funding from different sources, I believe, in order for this movie to happen. So I found like that was quite interesting to learn while researching this movie.
Yes, when it comes to political driven, especially this level of political driven movies, it tends to get the funding, especially tends to get a bit complicated.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, even if you go through what we call here the Guarani law, it gets a bit messy because, well, anyone can fund a movie or any art through Guarani law, but anyone can fund it. So it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter if you're far left or far right, you can choose. And you also can choose not to fund such independent movies or this music or that. So it gets a bit complicated because it is the biggest funding comes from big companies. And big companies sometimes don't want to risk their image with something that's going to be so ostracized by the public,
Mm-hmm.
especially or be so divisive. So they prefer to play safe. And this movie is not, I don't think it's that polemic. It could be more. I think Marighella was more polemic. That one was completely. I didn't watch Marighella, but just the whole publicity, the whole marketing of Marighella was chaotic.
Mm-hmm.
So from one side and the other, it was a whole thing. But it tends to get complicated in funding or marketing. Not, I wouldn't say making the movie itself, writing the movie, but financing and putting the movie out there because of this political state of the political climate here in
Mm-hmm.
Brazil. But when it's not that politically driven, and there, honestly, there are few movies that are not. Some of them are more hidden political, but others are more in your face. When they are more hidden, it's easier for you to get it going. But still, I think it's good that we can have that those kind of movies. Doesn't matter if it's one a far right movie within the limits of legality of freedom of speech,
Mm-hmm.
or a far left movie within the legalities of freedom of speech, because it avoids going back to that when only one side can talk. Let's have them both talking. Doesn't mean that we have to agree. We just have to appreciate.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, also to another article I want to share. So, on Letterbox, the director, he did an interview. So he talks about the opening sequence with the images that we discussed earlier that were from Brazilian telenovelas at the time. So he mentioned that it took as long as the editing and writing because it was the first thing that he wrote. It says a montage, but with a twist. Wonderful still photographs from the archives of the best novellas in Brazilian television in the 70s. It was only based in novellas, probably because we as Brazilians grew up watching novellas. I did particularly in the 70s up until the 90s. I wanted to juxtapose this idea of telling stories through novellas in a movie. This is a film for the cinema, and I'm opening it with our world famous teledramaturgia. Then I started working with a very good friend, Cleodon Colejo. Apologies if I mispronounced the name. And he brought amazing archives. He was very good at finding archives for pictures of ghosts. Scroll. Mentions here that I love the picture with the trapal. Trapalajos because it's probably the saddest and most beautiful picture of those four men I have ever seen. Of course, if you're Brazilian, the pictures have a special reading. If you're not Brazilian, you will look at the images and find them interesting, almost as if a friend comes into my house and before we have lunch, I show them an album of photographs. It should be an interesting aesthetic and an emotional experience, even if you are not really connected to the pictures. And then mentioned that the pictures kept changing until the grading process in Berlin. There's Irakema, an amazing film, Lucio Flavio, which is a great reference for this film, and The Lyria of Delight, Walter Lima Jr.'s wonderful film. And then something amazing happened in Poland. We were the opening film in a huge cinema, and Eskrava Asura, a 1976 novella exhibited on the TV Globo, was a major hit in the Eastern Bloc countries in the Soviet Union. So when Lucelia Santos came on the screen, there was a collective gasp. Everybody recognized Escrava Asura as an emotional memory. That says a lot about the power of Brazilian novellas. So I find that was quite fascinating to learn about this. So, you have any thoughts on this?
I do remember. I I've never watched Escravizaura, but I do remember. Somehow I remember.
Mm-hmm.
It's not from my time, but I still have a resemblance of memory so much I recognized her. And Trapalhões, I watched all the movies with him, with them and Shusha. No, there was one or two movies with Shusha. So those are very impactful for a Brazilian. And yes, he does have a point, of course, that novellas are a big part of our culture. Even though I'm not a big fan, I still watched a lot of novellas. That's how I met Wagner Moura. He was a star in novellas. A lot of
Ah.
some of the people that we know that are famous now all around the world, like him, Rodrigo Santoro, they were stars in novellas.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we met them. So they grew and developed their skill, became bigger than the novellas, but there is a craft there that is very particular to us. That I still remember fondly. I still remember to this day that my favorite was The Vampire's Kiss. Oddly enough, it's a Nicolas Cage movie, but that's not the one I'm talking about. And it's stuck in my memory that uh, the whole period of the story that one of the big bad vampires in the novella gets pregnant and the baby starts talking from the mother's belly and she's super sassy with everybody and starts telling everybody off from the womb. I love her. But it's something that it just there's a usually in the main channel that's global there's usually four novellas. Each one has one strike for everyone, one style for everyone. So it really it really rings to everybody, appeals to everybody.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah. Also, I do want to say that for me, I think I first saw Wagner Moore in the movie Elysium, that came out, I believe, back in 2013. That was directed by Neil Blomkamp, who was known for District 9. And I believe it was Wagner's Hollywood debut in that movie. So I find he's quite fascinating as an actor. Even though, like, if some of the projects don't quite work, at least for him, like, he's always quite fascinating to watch.
Yes, but he's always been a really good actor,
Mm-hmm.
and he escaped the whole heartthrob. I don't think he was ever a heartthrob guy. I don't remember that phrase. I, I don't remember the phrase, but he could have been. Rodrigo Santoro was more on that line of you know, the love, the love triangles and love interest of every novel. But he was a really big face in our novellas, and eventually everybody got very excited. I remember that the first time I didn't watch it, but I remember the first time I saw him in a non-Brazilian project was in Narcos, that he was
Mm-hmm.
playing. Uh, I forgot his name, the Colombian drug dealer.
Pablo.
I think Pablo Escobar.
Mm-hmm.
See, but I think it was the first time that I saw him in a project that was not Brazilian. And I said, "Oh, our baby is growing." So it started from there, and now we're here, and I'm happy that we are.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. For the this article, I'll leave a link in description if you guys want to read that. It's quite fascinating read, I would say. Speaking of Wagner Morris, so he did an interview with Sharp magazine. There's a specific quote that I wanted to mention here. So, like during the like interviews for this movie, he has mentioned that with his character is a man that is sticking to his values, which is a hard thing, like especially when you're under authoritarian government. And also too, like in terms of the portrayal of the character, it mentions here that with the character demanded a calm, stoic temperament, living under an alias and desperate trying to protect his son. He cannot afford to call attention to himself, which presented a challenge for the actors, also father of three. He says, quote, in many other films that I've done, you've seen me being very explosive. But in this case, it's sort of a mix between a clever and I, and he is more stoic. Everything happens internally. As an actor, it was a very beautiful exercise for me. And I find that's quite fascinating there because it really is a different performance, and especially in comparison to the other performances that are being considered for award season, which you could say are more showy, but with his performance is different. Now, it shouldn't be like a knock because it's more like subtle, but I would say it's a different performance, but I would say it's quite a powerful performance at the same time.
Yeah, I think there's a lot in his performance that it's it's shown on a look. You see the
Mm-hmm.
look of concern, the look of sadness. You don't see him crying his eyes out. You don't see him angry, furious, but you see in his eyes that he's angry. You see that in his eyes that he's sad. He doesn't express everything in a big way. And I like this kind of performances because first
Mm-hmm.
it's a stretching of the actor's muscles. Sometimes the stretch is recoiling. You have to
Mm-hmm.
pull it all. And it also shows that he's capable of more than people are used to. So even if he doesn't succeed and he already succeeded in the season, but even so, it gives, it shows directors, producers that he's capable of more than they expect.
Absolutely. And I do hope he does get nominated for an Oscar for his performance. I would say it'd be very well deserved. But we shall see what happens on the awards front because we are in the midst of that, which I'll get into in a bit. So the director, he did an interview with Filmmaker magazine, and there's a section here where he talks about the hairy leg sequence, and asked about like what was used to create that sequence, and apparently he used stop motion effects. So you mentioned that it was created in Holland. He used empty plates with the actors slash victims, and the first person camera movement, knowing that later in post they would add the hopping and jumping leg. There were some shots with the leg that were performed by an assistant whom we tasked with attacking the actors with a prosthetic leg. Says, imagine how funny that was. And while the stop motion leg was about this size, the puppets on set were bigger, essentially life size. I find that's quite fascinating because I thought at first it was either going to be like completely CGI or practical effects or some combination of both elements. But I find that was quite fascinating to learn about this. So,
Yeah, I didn't imagine it was stop motion. I just thought it was. I imagined the leg would be practical because it
hmm
really seemed realistic or very good CGI. But I imagined the movement would have been CGI. But
hmm
never crossed my mind it would be stop motion.
hmm
That would be that was the last thing that crossed my mind. But it
yeah.
was really nice.
hmm hmm Yeah, that's yeah. It's also yeah quite cool as well too. And I'll leave a link for this article if you guys want to check it out. But I do want to share a few of the film's posters here. So I do have like on Instagram. So I don't know if you've seen this one, but I find this is quite funny. So here, this was shared by the Brazilian distributor. This was after when the Hollywood Reporter shared their top 10 list and The Secret Agent was number one. So essentially, it's a close up of Wagner Moura's chest, if you remember from the opening sequence there. But any thoughts on this?
It is him. It's hair. Because for those who don't know, pelo in Portuguese is hair. It's the ones you have in your arms or your chest. So
hmm
it's the pelo. Here we go.
Yeah.
That's a good marketing.
Absolutely. I find like it's quite cheeky with this poster and it immediately grabs your attention. So it's hilarious. But also to another poster from the movie, I find this quite cool with this one once it opens.
If you decide to, you'll be
Yeah,
happy about
yeah.
it.
I find this is quite cool with this poster, which I believe it's a homage or references the Brazilian painting called Workers or Operarios, which came out in 1933 by Tarsila do Amaral, if I'm saying that name right. But yeah, this is quite cool with this poster. I really like this one.
I like this one too. This one I have seen it before, but
hmm
it's really interesting
Yeah.
and creative. I really
hmm
like it.
Absolutely, and we get to see essentially all of the characters in this one shot here, along with, of course, we gotta have sharks with the fin of the sharks right there.
Yes, everybody here.
hmm
That is an accounted for.
Absolutely. So this kind of like brings me to we need to talk about like the whole awards and recognition of it all. So as we're recording, like we're still in the midst of awards season. So far, like as I mentioned before, at Cannes, it won like the most awards. As I mentioned, like here's a director with the awards here, and then here's Wagner Moura like during another screening at Cannes. He wasn't there in person during the award ceremony, but they did like a special screening where he was awarded his Best Actor prize from Cannes, which was nice to see there. And I believe for Golden Globes, it's nominated for three awards, which are Best Picture in the Drama category, Best
Mhm.
International Film, and Best Actor Drama for Wagner Moura, which is nice. And what else too? And notably, the Oscars unveiled their shortlist in a few categories, and there's a Secret Agent was shortlisted for international feature film, of course, and for best casting, which is nice.
Well, the casting, I I have no words for this casting. They are
Mm-hmm.
just amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's international feature film. Every now and then there's some contradiction. I always think that it's like, okay, best international. Why there's a technically, but that's a whole other conversation. That one day
Yeah.
we can all of that. But I think it's great that it was shortlisted for that because it is a great movie. The casting is phenomenal
Mm-hmm.
in this movie, and it feels so natural to them. Um, and that, I think that's the point of acting. It has to feel natural for you to be in that situation, in that role, to be that person. And they are that person, those people.
Mm-hmm.
So the casting was really well made, really well done. And I wish up until the day the Oscars come around, we see one for Wagner, and it's one for Wagner and one for Kleber. I also think he deserves one too.
Mm-hmm.
So one for Best Actor and one for Best Director. I
Yeah.
think it could be two more. There could be two more left.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Because I know, like, with the actor race in particular is quite competitive this year, but I really hope that with Wagner gets one of those slots. I mean, we shall see what happens in the coming weeks, but
Mm-hmm.
fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that's it in terms of what I want to share with the secret agent. I do want to note that apparently, if you're in the New York area, there's going to be a whole series with the film they call the Secret Agent Network. That's from January 7th to the 13th, where they're going to show this movie, of course, with a Q&A with Clever, but also, too, they're going to be showing different films such as Point Blank, The Ear, Investigation of the Citizen Above Suspicion, Arakama, Close Encounters, Orca, and all that sorts of stuff. So if you guys are interested, you could check that out. If you're in the Ottawa area, at Bytown Cinema, they're still showing the film. That's going to be up until New Year's Day. And I saw yesterday that it's going to be playing at the Mayfair Theater starting January 2nd. And what else? I think that's all that I wanted to share here. And I saw this yesterday. So if you're interested, the soundtrack for the movie is out. I saw it, it came out yesterday as of the time of this recording, which features a score by Mateus Alves and Tomás Alves Souza. So on your streaming platforms, you could check out the soundtrack there. And that's pretty much it. Oh, I'll share quickly. So this is the cat from the movie, Liza and Elis. So cute right there too. So adorable, the cat. Yeah, absolutely. And I saw that apparently the screenplay for the film in Portuguese is available for purchase. So if you're interested, you could buy it if you want to, which comes like with all sorts of stuff, not just the script itself. But I find that's cool. And then also to share quickly, Anita, if you're familiar with Anita, she shared her thoughts on the movie. She essentially like praised the movie, so which is cool.
Yes, she every now and then she pops up talking about something culturally related.
Mm-hmm.
But she's I'm not going to say that I enjoy the music because I'm more of a rock person.
Yeah.
But that's total opinion. But every now and then she comes around. And I find it interesting that there is a video of her specifically learning about politics that it became
Yeah.
a because she was talking about a political scientist and the political scientist was just talking. She was like, buffering. But I think it's interesting about her that she engages. She sees
Mm-hmm.
things and she shares her opinion. So despite not enjoying the music, I appreciate that she verbalizes her feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes way too much,
Uh, yeah,
but
absolutely.
check her opinion out with the race. It's a good way to learn.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So that pretty much concludes our talk on the secret agent. Like, if you guys have any thoughts on this movie, leave it in the comments section. So just before we wrap up, Julianne, do you want to share where people can follow you, or if you have any upcoming projects, all that sorts of stuff?
Well, you can follow me on Instagram. My it's at Julie Writes, July Writes, and all the links for my projects are tagged on Instagram, including my Insta writing, is a network, and the crowdfunding for my future book that is coming.
If you want to support me, you can visit buymeacoffee.com/Nomfanelo, where you could donate and look at exclusive posts there. On my channel on YouTube, if you subscribe to the channel, you could feel free to leave comments there as long as it's under community guidelines. And if you want to follow me, my socials are in the description. So before we depart, any final notes you want to share on The Secret Agent?
I think it's a great movie for people to learn a bit more, not just about the filmmaking process and how things work, how movies are important, how cinema is important, but also to learn a bit more about Brazil because people know a lot about certain specific areas, certain specific points of history, but to give you the context of how different everything is from everything, everyone, every culture, we are very diverse within our boundaries, and not just this one, but other movies that also give a bigger sense of who we are. Just a brush, but still give you an idea, and I'm really glad that it's being spread out.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, thank you again, Juliana, for being a guest for the first time on my channel. And I want to thank you for watching, and I hope to catch you on the next one.
Thank you for having me, and thank you everybody for listening.